What's up, rockers? All across the fucking world. 25 is here. January has passed, the longest January I think I've had in a minute. And I'm refreshing this, bringing it back up, starting a whole new year, new guest. And I'm stoked. Him and I have been friends for a good while. We're fellow veteran buddies. He's Marines, I'm Army. I'm the better service, but we don't talk about that. Um,
Right.
But we actually just talked about it because he has a very interesting last name, and it's Nick. How would you like to pronounce it correctly?
Vanornum.
Van
Yeah.
Ornum.
Vanornum.
I mean, that's like a solo artist name already. Like
Yeah.
Van Ornum. He's the next solo show, the next Ricky, going Joe Satriani or Steve Vai or Vic Van Ornum.
Vanornum. I like it.
Dude, what's Gucci, brother?
What's up?
What's good, man? How are you?
Oh man. Well, you kind of already said it, talking about how long January is. Uh,
Fucking
you know,
and
I'm just
long and part of that January was fucking NAMM, man.
yeah, NAMM was a good time. We already kind of talked about a little bit like how small it is.
Yeah.
Hasn't really taken away from the good times that I've had in it, but I mean, it is different. And then, you have a couple artists, or I should say vendors out there that like to do things differently this year that I don't think a lot of people were a fan of. But
Yeah, they like the appointment stuff. We were talking about like certain companies like ESP and stuff like that. They were doing appointments only. And I get
mhm,
they may minimize the foot traffic trying to go through there, but at the same time now it's like, you know, now it's like you're taking away from people just going up there. And then like now I'm
yeah,
sure like all their time slots are booked in advance on when you want to actually go in.
yeah. Overall, though, I thought it was good. I mean, I'm glad to see everyone else was there. Like EMG was there.
Yeah, always, always,
Tommy
always.
and Tommy's always there. Good to talk to. Um, Vola
I
being
was,
there.
I was
Uh,
gonna be, aren't you a Vola endorsed artist now?
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
I was stoked to see that they kind of had a last minute to come out, and I think everyone's glad they did. I mean, they got a huge, good reaction out of the whole thing. I think they had an awesome setup, and then of course Driftwood, staying with those guys.
Oh yeah. Always love.
What
Shout
I
out to
did
those
last
boys.
year also, like we just all did
Honestly,
together.
if you want to spend money for an awesome high gain boutique amp, even their preamp stuff, like all everything they put out is incredible.
Oh
Yes,
man,
but it's like the investment of a lifetime, and you'll stick out. You'll be completely different than everybody else.
yeah, no, awesome gear. And you couldn't be more happy for the people behind it.
Yeah.
American Jenny, I mean, I couldn't even begin to name you two of the nicest individuals. I mean, it's family at this point, you know what I mean?
And it's
So
like because I always stop by the Driftwood booth too every time, and it's like we haven't seen each other in a year. Of course, like yeah, we're following each other on Instagram, but it's like still, it's like after a year coming back to NAMM and still hang out and talk like nothing has passed.
exactly, yeah. No, it's nice to get in that face to face, and which is also a funny part of NAM too, because you start getting into that cycle of only seeing each other on social media
Yeah,
throughout the whole
yeah, yeah,
year, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
finally you start seeing face to face. It seems like each year it's you're kind of meeting like, hey, what's going on, man, and just kind of getting to have that personal connection. So it's nice.
Yeah, which Sal, we just missed each other because we were trying to time it up. We're like, where you at? Where you at? I'm back over here. I'm back over here. And I think that's the first time we haven't crossed paths. And because normally you always cross paths with everybody, even if you just run into them by accident.
Yeah.
So, but it's all good. We're on the digital
Uh,
side still.
I mean, between that hall going over to audio and just, I mean, I think I was looking and averaging like 16,000 steps a day, just constantly going back and forth and talking to everyone. So it is weird, like
So
missing each other, but
you have some fun question on the NAMP side, like because this is what I was taking away from this year. And because it's open to the public, you can pay what if you're not completely endorsed by somebody, you could also have the invitation invite from a company and you pay $75. And then you have the open that you can pay 150 for the whole weekend. And it's cool. I get they want to get as much people coming in for like because music is now the largest like the largest it's ever been now, for being a musician. We're in the greatest, I would say we're in the greatest like era of being a self-made musician. With this amount of products and YouTube videos and everything. But now I feel like now it's just become a photo booth and signing session. Like, oh, I'm following Nita Strauss. She's going to be over at Ibanez on Friday. So I'll go on Friday and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
kind of taking away the actual musicianship of the convention, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head on that one. Especially this year, and it did seem like that a lot. Being it, whether it was Marshall or somewhere else, and then the minute uh, whoever artist comes in at that time, it's kind of the whole focus. You know what I mean? And you can always tell where everyone's kind of being followed, and it kind
Yeah.
of turned into that thing of I'll go this day because so and so is going to be there on this day, and then kind of do my thing, do my signing, and then deuces, I'm out of there.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's what I feel like. It's like now then it also falls back then to like, companies such as, Bare Knuckle or EMG. Maybe they're not going to bring a brand new whole new product out to show out. Now they're just going to bring their stock inventory because they know there's going to be just everybody there and then we're going to do photo signings and stuff like that. And so now it feels like companies aren't trying as hard to show what they're bringing for the new year,
Yeah,
Especially with announcements every month from a guitar company or anything like that about new gear. It's kind of like it's kind of a used car salesman shop lot now.
I mean, yeah, I can see a lot of the companies that have been around a while. I think it's you don't want to see it from both sides, but I guess I could. Where if you already have a product out there, why would I put in all the money to have the booth?
Yeah,
Everyone knows about it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not going to gain anything from it per se. Um,
I.e. Gibson or Schecter.
yeah, so on that aspect, sure, I guess I understand. But then it also kind of takes away of why did you even kind of show up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like there's always something to be talked about or something that's new coming down the line or whatever it is.
yeah. But
Including,
we'll see. We'll see how the future unravels for now. I hope it kind of shifts gears and maybe make it one day of just like, all right, here's a general public. Everybody else, it's kind of invitation, whether you're an endorsed artist or a company invites you.
yeah. So I noticed, unless I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there was a open to the public.
The whole thing is open to public. You pay 150.
But as far as I want to say, what is it? Usually that last day.
They used to make Sundays the open public day, but now the whole event of NAMM is open public.
See that completely. I thought they just entirely skipped it.
No, no, no. It's complete. You can just go on there and register, and you can say, "Oh, what are you?" They'll ask you your questions. Oh, I'm gonna buy gear, and you'll see people saying on their thing that says buyer or whatever the heck.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that
a whole
answers
different
that one.
ballgame,
Yeah,
man. I
I
get
completely.
it.
What was it? 4 days, and I feel like it was one afternoon. You know,
Oh
what I mean?
yeah,
Like you
yeah.
get done with it, and you don't even know what just happened. So
Um, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. I hope they can bring that around and make it a little bit more like a nice musician friendly. Like here, let's show you you could actually network, talk with companies, show them
mhm.
what you're doing, and see what they can get out of each other. Um, but kind of drawing it right back around. Let's talk about you, dude. That's what we're here about. Let's give the folks a little bit about yourself, man, because you've been a shredder for a long time and you've played in a few different bands and you're a military veteran. Let's give us some background on like you being, a guitar player. What's your musician story?
See, oh man, where do I start? Um,
You you can do the quick AAR, quick acronym.
I guess we can kind of go back to the Marine Corps days. I mean, if you want to really take it back, I started playing guitar like in high school, probably like any
Yeah,
other kid, starting around. Funny enough, I started out on drums. I did that for a while and just I was like, you know what, this isn't for me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I
yeah.
ended up getting, if I'd say, a later start on guitar. But and then I did that for a little bit. And then Marine Corps happened. Uh, Went into the Marine Corps for 8 years. And then it was kind of like my exit out where I really wanted to get back into playing guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can relate to this. Whenever you're leaving a branch or anything, it's what am I going to do? I've been
Yep.
doing this for this entire time. What else can I do? And I think that kind of helped fill in some gaps. Not saying that I chose at that time, that's what I wanted to do full time. But I kind of just took that as an opportunity to pick it up, start playing it again. And then ended up becoming a part of a band called Always the Understudy. They were a hardcore band out of San Diego. And I remember talking to these guys because at that time, it's who needs a guitarist, right? About to leave. I wasn't about to start my own thing. I don't even know who to call at this point. And they were just grilling me on, you know, how can I play? Am I good enough? Brought me out. And I remember one of their guitarists being like, like we're striving to do Warp Tour. Like, are you going to be able to bring that to the table? And I'm just thinking, well, damn, man, like I haven't even got to sit in front of you guys yet, and this is pretty serious. I guess I felt like a weird interview. So they ended up having me come out, and I ended up doing an audition. They gave me one of their songs, which is AAA, and did that for a few days and came out and then, played, and they were like, all right, you're good. So welcome. And then we had a good relationship from there. And then it wasn't shortly after that, we ended up doing a Battle of the Bands for Ernie Ball. So we did Battle of the Bands for Ernie Ball. We won, and that slotted us in for Warp Tour. So
Hell yeah.
it was kind of weird how all that kind of came about. And I only say all of that because up to that point, it was just kind of fun. It was something else to do.
Yeah.
We played Soma in San Diego.
For people don't know, Soma is like I would say that the most all ages iconic venue in San Diego. It's kind of like in Orange County we have Chain Reaction. That's
Mm-hmm.
what yeah, that's the big venue like every hardcore band or scene band has ever played is in Soma.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a blast doing that. We even did Chain Reaction. We go up there into the LA area. But it was after the Warp Tour event where it kind of really sunk in for me, at least. And that's when I had this is what I want to do. Um, so I guess like the fever kind of took over at that point.
Yeah.
Really, putting in more time to play and do all that. Uh,
It's interesting that you brought up like the military correlation. Like we actually have the same kind of trajectory on that thing. Like I grew up doing band, choir, playing actually jazz guitar for jazz band. And then once I joined the military, I completely stopped because 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have the YouTube and all these
yeah.
we didn't have like, audio interfaces I can hook up and practice, like all this
Mhm.
stuff. I couldn't just practice in our freaking bunk rooms or whatever the hell. Now people can do it. Absolutely. It's amazing. But back then, hell no. Couldn't do
Yeah.
any of that stuff. And then it wasn't until I got out, I'm like, well, I guess maybe I'll hop back into it too.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things. Like you said, there's not really that outlet to go unless it's just kind of like your free time. And not to mention the military in general. It's not like you have a ton of free time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know,
Yeah.
having another hobby like that, it's almost non existent. Um, but yeah, that's what started me onto that. And then, funny enough, as that started getting more serious, it started to turn into the disagreements that come around with bands.
Yeah, what's the
Um,
direction,
yeah,
ideas? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Direction, like more lead playing, more hardcore, metalcore, deathcore, like no one could really make up the mind. So we had this weird kind of time where we were writing another album, but I wasn't really putting my all into that because I could tell we were great as friends, but when it came to the musical differences, no one could really jive. So during that time, I ended up getting a job as a contractor. So I ended up taking up a job where then I would go and provide security overseas. So I ended up taking that. And then during that time, the whole band kind of,
Just
I
broke
don't
down.
want to, yeah, I don't want to say that it like fell apart or anything because it was still on good terms, you know.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure we had our disagreements and all that. Um, but it was, we had another guitarist come in and I had him, so I'd be able to show him the parts and everything like that. So make it somewhat of a smooth transition. Uh, so we did that, and then I was gone. So then I went through maybe a year, 2 years, something like that, of not really writing anything. Got the job, but I was really trying to pay attention and focus in on that. But during that time, I also had the opportunity to kind of get more into it. So the way everything kind of worked out, and I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Um, like the way my schedule worked would be 60/60s. So I would work 60 days on, and then I'd come home for 60 days and do nothing, kind of just do whatever needed to be done.
Yeah.
The only time I worked was 180 days out of the year.
God, I wish the military did that.
I know. So I took that opportunity, especially when COVID happened.
Yeah.
Uh, everyone kind of had their vice that they fell into, some good, some bad. I ended up taking that as like, let's pick this thing up and start writing. Let's start really diving into this. Because I had the opportunity now to do what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
didn't have to run anything by anyone else. So I ended up really kind of at that time, I started working more on myself as like a lead player. I wasn't always like a lead guitarist. I was always on the rhythm side. Um, and it was almost like we were pigeonholed to be kind of in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was never really a reason to kind of go out. But, doing that, then I started, writing, practicing. I had all the time in the world, it felt like, and to go back to what we are saying about the military, like not having any way to like really just play in the barracks or anything like that unless you had an amp or anything like that you were going to haul around. Uh, so whenever I'd go to work for those 60 days, now I do have the interface. So I bring the guitar, the interface, set that up through the computer, Logic Pro, boom, I'm playing. You know what I mean? So 3,000 miles away from home, but it's not going to stop me from, writing or anything like that.
Exactly. Like what I said before, we're in the golden age of musicianship. So it's great that we have these conveniences because now we can literally write wherever the fuck we are.
Yeah. And I love it. Sometimes it's frustrating because then I'll get in my head about it that I have nothing going on. I should go right now, do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I get in my own head about it, and then some days I might do something, and then I come back the next day. I was like, "Well, that was shit. Why did I do that?"
Well,
But
now you're working on this whole career path of like, all right, going on, taking a break, going on, taking a break. It's kind of like a nice way of you not burning out. And now you're
mm-hmm.
kind of now bringing all this creativity from the past years that you've had, and now you're currently working on your first solo project, if that's correct.
Yeah, I am, and I'm super stoked about that. So that was when the time came up on. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to start something as a solo project. Where do I begin? You know. So I knew right off the bat because audio, anything like that, is completely over my head.
Yeah, because once you're playing, for people to understand, when you're playing through an amp, you're getting the exact tone you want, but once you transcribe that sound into Logic or whatever, recording process that you're using, it changes it. And that's where the EQ settings and all this stuff comes in, and that's a whole different magicry wizard stuff.
Oh yeah. You think chasing tone is bad on an amp. Once you go into an interface, it's just like an infinite library of anything you can do, really. Um, but yeah, it started getting into now I want to find a producer, whether he's in the area, outside the area, kind of going through the catalog, if you will, on albums that I like the way they sound and what I want to sound like in relation to that. And I know we briefly touched on it earlier, but that's how I actually ended up falling into Bobby Keller. And then through him, I reached out asking, do you do your own work in there or do you work with someone else? And it was very, hey, you should talk to Ben. And then gave him the info. And it was like a weird transition how it happened, but also the best transition that could have happened. Because that's how I ended up meeting Ben Johnson. And I mean, from the beginning, when we had our first phone call about the direction to what we are now, I mean, that dude, I mean, he's a brother to me now. So definitely grateful for that meetup. But got with Ben, and from there, we've just been nailing it out the whole EP. Um, but and I want to say I've already been down because he's in Florida. I've been down there twice now writing, and we're at the final stage. I mean, I'm completely done with it, hands off, really. He's fixing everything. If you heard me play at NAMM, like that was part of it, in a nutshell. So anyone that heard it there was the first time it was ever played for anyone else's ears.
So are you doing a couple singles first, or do you have a whole EP ready to be dropped?
So I'm an EP. I'm definitely going to do the singles. I'm not going to release everything out. And that's just how today is. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
that's the natural thing.
Everyone's
You
attention
want
span.
everyone to keep listening to it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's a good thing, but yeah, it's a whole nother subject on that as well about like everyone's attention span and
Yeah.
being able to
And
kind of keep up.
it's there's been a lot of great conversations I've been hearing, like I watch a lot of what's his name, Rick Beato and all that stuff, and they talk about these attention spans and of people on YouTube and the TikTok guitar players and all this stuff. And yeah, it's an interesting age of the singles, the trickle single system, and I'm a fan for it as long as the singles do not end up on a full-length album.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate when bands release like five singles and that's like half the album.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I just like I'm thankfully they haven't been doing it. Like I love Architects and they've been really good about like not putting the same singles back on. Or another great band over out in the UK, oh, Paleface. They had a bunch of singles they released. They were amazing and not one of those singles is on the new album. I'm like, that's what's up. That means like, cool, those are their own things, but we have a bunch of other music we want to put out.
Yeah. No, that's cool. It's a good way to do it too.
And it's like one thing that does annoy me when they'll sit on a single. They released a single, two, three singles like what, 4 years ago or something, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
finally release a new album, and those singles are making it on the album. Like you guys have other content, you have other songs. We've already been hearing those. Don't
Mm-hmm.
recycle them. That's being lazy, you know?
Yeah. Funny enough, too. That's kind of the stage I'm in right now, too. Like, I have all that done, and I already have so much on here. Like, I've already started writing the second EP, which I'd like to, throw and mash together, turn that into a whole album. But I mean, it's been a blast. And I would also like to say, if anyone's on the fence about writing their own album or anything like that, on whether they want to do it or have a producer, get a producer.
Yeah. Well, you need to bounce the ideas off each other. It's kind of like
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
can't, you might think you want to go this complete direction, but they're going to throw up thing, hey, let's try it doing this way, let's run
Yeah.
it through this amp instead or this sim. Like they'll give you some feedback options. It's better for that way. Because otherwise you may make an album that every song sounds exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Ben has been awesome during this whole process and helped me out. Uh, and has gotten me so mad at times just trying to get it how we want it. But that's why I love him. His attention to detail is just perfect. But yeah, it's been awesome, and the whole writing process in it too. Like the big thing that I really wanted to do in this was have a good separation between rhythm and lead. So, because I started listening to a lot of, the solo instrumental albums and not knocking any of them because there's so many that are good and obviously in their own way, but it would be a lot of kind of leads over something that's more simple in the back, like as far as
Yeah, a very
rhythm
generic
goes.
rhythm back. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know exactly what you're
But
talking
I get it, right? Because it opens up the entire space to let the lead just take over and let that
Yeah.
voice sing throughout the song. Um, but I wanted something on both sides of it. So if you were a lead player, maybe you learn to play the lead part, but a rhythm player, we're not doing, 035 or anything like that throughout this whole thing. So I wanted something that was going to be fun on both sides of the spectrum that, you could kind of play along with. And I feel like I accomplished that also, again, with the help of Ben, just kind of like pushing me to go into this like this. But I mean, I'm definitely excited about it for
Well, I
sure.
think that shows out, like, kind of going back to Bobby and all his solo stuff that he did. It shows that he worked with Ben. So, and it shows exactly what you talked about. Like, obviously he's a lead shredder, but the rhythm side of everything was really good on that back end. Like, it was
Mhm.
supporting its own. If you took the leads off, you can hear a song by itself with just a rhythm on there, and it sounded great with it.
Yeah, no, and that's why all that credit right there goes to Ben, man. Like I said, he's great to work with, but he'll also just drive you insane at times for the good, though.
So what's the timeline, I guess, for the first single I would say you released from all these songs?
I'd like to say, between February and March.
Which is
There's
we're already in February, so it's like right here, buddy.
so yeah, you know what I mean.
March is a month
Because
away.
we got Ben doing it, and then from there it's going to head over to Machine. Uh, so once all that's done, then yeah, we'll start pushing it out. I mean, there's just a lot, between everyone
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year going on. So that's why I never had like a hard deadline or anything like that. So just kind of have it going. We get to it when we get to it, no pressure. And then it's just kind of, we're at the finish line now, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah. Well, you definitely gotta let me know when it comes ready and like send it over so we like bump it the fuck up and put it out there and get a nice little promotional boost behind it too. So
Yeah,
that'd be killer
sounds
to get
great.
on there because it's we're on a great like as we keep kind of reoccurring subject about talking this golden age of musicianship. You know, the love it or hate it, the rise of like independent guitar players, bass players, and whatnot has been given credit to YouTube and stuff like that. All these new YouTube
Yeah,
sensations that have been, playing or taught themselves, the what's her name, Kiki Kwong, all that stuff, Sophie Burrell, and all these other phenomenal shredders are out there. I mean, we're in this huge age where there's everything out there. So now you can just release this music whenever you want to, and people can find it.
yeah. And that's a whole other thing, it's getting it done and then going through, that's a whole nother process in itself, releasing it these days. So, uh, but yeah, I mean, getting that, releasing it out, and then, like I said, I already started on the second. I think this year I've really told myself, and I started doing it at the back end of last year, is just like focus in on the skill. You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
like you were saying, like all the it's so easy to kind of push yourself out on social media and all that. It also takes up time,
Yeah, yeah,
wasting
that's another
time.
other sore subject for people on this age of stuff, you know?
Yeah,
And I've what I've found as well, and like I think I like to think I'm pretty well versed on how I want to put stuff on there, tag stuff, promote stuff, and being constant when things. And I like to do more recently of late what Joe Rogan calls it post and ghost, you know? Don't
yeah,
don't think about it, just post it and don't look at it as something you have to do. You know, post something that you enjoy that you made that you like, cool. Don't think of it as you're trying to meet a target audience for just posting it. Post something like, hey, this is my cool solo from my new single right now, and make it look good, have pride in it, post in it, and let people find it. But don't sit there and try to force something out when you're not feeling it, just
yeah,
post when you want to do it and make it good.
yeah, absolutely. And I was there, like a while back because you try to, right?
Yeah, you
You're
get cut in
trying
that,
to
you try
get
to make that
whatever. You
algorithm
start,
and the hashtag
yeah, the
crap.
algorithm, all that. What are you doing? Are you posting at what time? And at this point, man, this is what I got. Am I going to post it? Am I not going to post it? This is what I got.
Yeah.
Either like it or
Yeah.
don't like it. Like I'm not here to try to trick an algorithm or do anything. It's just me. This is what I'm doing, um, which is also weight off the shoulders when you can actually look at it that way and not be so consumed with
Yeah.
it. So it's nice. But yeah, just like telling myself, don't worry about any of that. Like just focus in, do all that, keep
Though I will
writing.
say there is one posting hack that I've always been cognizant of it, but it's like it's great also for the people that you're endorsed by. Always tag the companies that you tag the things that you're going to use that they're also going to repost it. So I
Mm,
like the guitars. All right, boom, tag them so they can repost it. Or like I use Perry's leathers for their straps. So when I use them, I always tag them, tag the things that are going to kind of repost it, and that's when you'll get a bigger exposure as well.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like can't leave them behind. You know what I mean?
But I guess it's kind of fun to ask too, as we've just kind of been hovering around it. What's your take on the music industry right now? Like we're in this weird digital age, AI, posting, social media, TikTokers, reels. Like, do you think the art of a musician is kind of dwindling away and the rise of, I would say, social media superstars is the bigger thing now?
Man, that's a good question. And I have a lot of thoughts, I guess, that go through my head. Because I do see that it's different now. You know what I mean? Uh, to kind of take you back, there was a time we played in front of Sumerian Records. And so we did the whole set. And then we get done and they pull us off to the side and they're like, so what's the niche? You know what I mean? Like what do you have that's going to kind of separate you? And they kind of started really going down the rabbit hole because it was a long conversation just about the parties that would get thrown, like the after party. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Um, and that wasn't our thing. Um, and even now, it's not my thing. Like I don't have time to just throw back after every night. You know what I mean?
And not to
Uh,
throw shade on Sumerian, but every band that I have become friends with or talked to that were part of their label have left. Have never said really anything great about them,
yeah,
respectfully. So,
I've heard some of the same. But to go from that to now, it's night and day. It's completely different to the sense where that doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Like at
Yeah.
that time, that was what you needed to do. And now it's, if anything, now if you want to bring up burning it down, that's almost looked down upon now. Um, but it's also so much more into the social media aspect of it. It's you're following sponsors. Like it doesn't even matter what you have as far as submitting that paperwork to like for the endorsement. It's what have you done to make our job easier, you know, to be able to
It's
let,
almost also in a way they want you to be a brand before you're a brand,
yeah,
right? They want you to be almost a household name in itself on your own social media, little energy that you have. Then they'll add you to their brand, but you have to be a brand first.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and I'm terrible at this, but I always try to see things from both sides. You know what I mean? And like on one hand, it's, well, you want me to make it before,
I make it.
you know, uh, to the point where then I would just say, well, then I don't need you anymore, you
Yeah.
know? Um, but
And
on
there's
the
some bands that are phenomenal independent people that I believe they're the template of what it is, how you can control and do everything yourself. While She Sleeps, Pawn a Burning Body, they completely are independent and they control everything, everything on their looks, every merchandise album. I mean, they have their management team still. They have a
yeah,
management team, PR person, but no label, so they can control everything they do. But when you go that route, you have to be 100% invested in doing everything.
yeah. I mean, you're gonna put in some work.
Yeah, but they enjoy doing it. That's the difference, though. You got to enjoy putting in that work and knowing I created this, I'm doing this. Don't think of it as I have to do it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Make it into something you love doing. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
down to
It'd be fun. We got to talk. We haven't even really talked about this, guitar stuff. Yeah, you with Vola and whatnot. I'm not endorsed with anyone, but I'm just an ESP lover in general. I have like five ESPs from basses to regular guitars.
yeah.
Before Vola, what other axes were you using?
So ESP, I did use ESP, and then Dean. So those
Which
are kind
they're
of
they
like,
they've been they're always part of NAMM, but they're like a secret small little room way
yeah.
hidden.
Dean's room is weird. It's something completely different. And if anyone couldn't find them, don't worry, they were there. You just had to go up some weird, shady set of stairs
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get up there to them. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd use. And I have a few Jacksons that I would play around with. In the hardcore days, I would do Fender. I have a Jim Root signature, that Fender
Yeah, the
Tele,
telly. Yeah.
and that was kind of my baby. And I still have that thing, and probably never get rid of it. But that's kind of where all that kind of started from. But ESP and Dean were kind of the two before that. And then the day I got my hands on that Vola, I throw these things away at this point.
Yeah.
They're that good. So, but
And we're again in the golden age of musicianship. We have so many great guitar companies now that you don't need to spend, a grand. You don't need to spend, I think what most of Vola stuff are like what, around 800-900 bucks or something like that.
yeah, I mean, they're a little north of a grand. Um,
But like you don't
they're
have to
not,
buy a LP cut like a custom for 2 grand anymore or some shit
yeah,
like that, you know?
yeah.
Like
It's,
Stratocasters are still like 1,500 bucks, but we're in this great age where there's so many different companies.
oh, yeah. They're beyond in the craftsmanship, made in Japan. I
Yeah.
mean, if that's what you're after, which is usually what anyone's after with the ESP, unless you're wanting that USA custom. You want that made in Japan kind of
Yeah.
craftsmanship.
You want to get that kamikaze look, freaking George Lynch stuff, man. Those are
Yeah.
gnarly freaking custom shops.
No, yeah, but they're awesome. Like you said, there's plenty uh, of individuals and manufacturers out there. There's no reason that if you just want a good guitar, that you have to be spending $2,000.
No. Now with the amount of also, pickups are affordable to buy now, and then it's like getting them set up is easier than ever. You can buy a $200-300 guitar and put some killer EMGs in there, man. Set up the strings that you want, bro.
Yeah, like I have a couple Jackson Dinkies that from the past where that's exactly what I did. You
Yeah.
just grab one of those for a couple $100. You throw in a Floyd and then some EMGs, which the EMG part of it, that's one of the big reasons why I was like, well, of course EMG, because they have the whole no soldering necessary. Like anything to make my job easier,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so yeah, you could easily end up having some $300 guitar, and then you can make it play and sound like a $1,500 guitar.
Like I like to watch him for fun, but like the Guitar Max guy, he always does Fireflies and Harvey Benton stuff on his YouTube channel, and then I'm like, dude, they sound fucking bitchin'. And he's
Yeah,
running them through a real tube amp, and then he'll switch off like, hey, we'll put it through some amp modeler, and it still sounds just as bitchin'.
yeah. I think it's one of those things where everyone wants to, something more high end will make you sound better, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
something like that. And maybe I wouldn't say sound better, but something new. I think there is something to be said about at least the imagination being able to come to life more when you have a newer instrument. Does it
Yeah.
have to be $1,500? No, it,
No, no. But
but
there is there it's that horrible that meme joke of the guitar player buying something new again and having the endless collection. Do you really need a new guitar? But like sometimes it does help you. It's kind of like what I put in correlation to like people ask me like how do I get motivated about working out again or something like that? Go buy some new clothes. That actually is a true motivational factor to go do it. Buy new running shoes because you want to wear them. So it's kind of like the same principle on a guitar. You may be inspired by this guitar. I'm like, whoa, this gives me a bluesy vibe, man. I'm gonna try to write some bluesy riffs.
yeah, exactly. No, same thing. I 100% agree.
So we're justifying all your guitar purchases right now.
Go get what you want.
Well, this is also cool to bring it around. I always like to finish things up of like talking about current music right now. Like, what are you listening to? What's been on your rotating? Is there stuff that you listen to that puts you in the mind zone of when you want to practice and riff or all that stuff?
Yes, yeah, there is. I'm all over the place with music.
As you
So,
should. That opens
you know
us
what I
up
mean?
creatively.
Um, so like I love thrash. Anything thrashy. I still go down into the whole, like we already talked about, Upon a Burning Body. Like I was just blaring them today in the gym. So still like to have the whole thrash, but lately I've been going into like the outlaw country side of it.
Yeah, there we go.
Uh, so Whitey Morgan, Paul Coffin, those are two like big ones that I'll listen to, and I try to get myself out of that mindset of repeating or out of the habit of repeating a riff that I just heard
Heard.
2 hours ago in the
Yeah.
gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
sit down to write something new, and I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty sick, only to find out like, oh no, that's
That's
not
pretty
me at
much this
all.
song right here. Maybe I've changed it up a little bit. I'm going down, in the third position versus what they're staying up here.
Exactly. So I try to completely get out of anything in that realm. But yeah, the outlaw country is kind of the whole I've dived into, and it's been good. It's been good.
Any
So
anyone else like new wise that you've been listening to that like you say no one knows about? I mean, I'm sure people know who Whitley Morgan is and stuff like that. Is there anyone new that you've been bumping out?
who else? Who else? Suicidal Angels. I mean, listening to them a ton lately, even though I was just saying, like, I try not to go into that thrash area. Um, but I do that. I do still like, so my top favorite guitarist, if I can even say favorite, because the mind's always changing on this, but Zach Wild, just the whole everything about him, right? Like not even the guitar playing, but just how he carries himself, like always kind of intrigued me.
Yeah.
To still have that old school kind of feel and vibe to it, and dude still got it, right? Like no one's gonna deny that. That to Gary Holt and even Mark Tremonti. So anything different in the realm of like rock or anything like that. Like I do listen to a lot of Tremonti.
I
Um,
think it's really cool that he's had a not just in Creed in general, but from all his projects that he's been in the last 10 years, the name Tremonti has been like, thrown up now as a top tier guitar player because before you just
uh,
thinking of him as Creed, cool, but then he's an incredible freaking riff writer and shredder, and he's just kind
oh
of like
yeah,
now up there with the greats.
yeah. No, all the albums are so good, and it's also something different. So even to go back to not having his, guitar album or anything like that, but going into when he did the Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that
I mean,
up.
I
That's
give it up. I mean, that was something.
that
And
was
the
something he
whole,
wanted to do, and he did it really well.
yeah, the loops he had to jump through, or the hoops he had to jump through to be able to just do that, and like a whole family had to listen to it, and I mean, it was interesting. But
I would say like and I guess as we bring up like favorite guitar players and people that are inspired us, I'd say recently, well, forever, I'm the largest Jerry Cantrell fan in the world. Love him. I think I honestly, you know, I believe he's like the heart and soul of Alice in Chains, but when you
mm,
hear his own solo stuff, you can hear I'm like, that's Alice in Chains. He carries the big whole bulk of it, but
yeah,
George Lynch. Obviously Dimebag. But in recent years, I became like as I've been loving more blues rock and kind of like the outlaw rock stuff.
yeah,
Bones Owens out in Nashville, he's a phenomenal just like he was under the radar for so long as like a supporting touring session guitar player for other people, and then he broke out into his own solo stuff, and he's just got this unique way. One, if there's a tone chase I would love to chase, is that guy's tone. He's all tube amps. That's all he ever uses. Pedal board, craziness, and he just has insane blues riffs that you can feel the soul behind the riffs.
yeah. I mean, and I love that too. Like you're saying, when you can feel it, like you feel everything they put into that. So being able to kind of share that, that's awesome. And the fact that you're saying like using all tube, that's my thing too. Like if anyone wants to know like why don't I go digital, that is also something that completely over
Well,
my. I have no patience for that.
and that's a whole different topic. Like my whole bass rig is digital, and I think I've dialed in a great tone for it. And it's also going to be what sucks about the digital age of stuff is it also is going to be very much dependent on the PA system and the sound person. Unless you're paying money for your own sound person, you're
I mean,
codependent on that person in the freaking front of house mixing your sound. It may be sound great in your in-ears, but you don't know what's coming out to the
yeah.
crowd. That's the only downfall I have about going DI and everything. Because when it's on stage and it's all analog and you're going through tubes, you fucking hear it and you know how you sound, versus now your tone is completely in the hands of somebody else.
I mean, yeah. And I get it. It's easier, right? It's obviously so different when you don't have to carry anything like this and you just have like a quad cortex.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I get it. You're the one laughing now. Like,
But there are some bands that truly have sounded great. And I recently went to a Dayseeker, Rain City Drive, and I think it was called Ghost Atlas. So the Ghost Atlas was the first opening band. It's the guitar player from Era. It's his own little project. And they weren't even like a heavy rock band. They were more of like an alternative light everything. I don't even think they had a distortion pedal on for any of their songs. It was just very all, but it was all, I'm pretty sure they were doing Kemper for all their tones, but hands down the entire night, they had the best tone out of all the bands. 'Cause all the bands used DI. That's all they were doing. They had the best tone. Everybody else sounded super muffled and condensed, and you couldn't hear. I couldn't tell the difference between the tracks and the guitars. I was that's where my also big beef is when I can't tell the difference between things.
Yeah. No, I've heard some that are like that, so I know what you're talking about.
Because
But
then
and
that means you can hide your playing behind the tracks, and that's a whole another fucking tackle and hurdle of the modern age.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You don't even know where you're gonna be 20 years from now. I was just looking through a book earlier, and it's a book I had when back, I want to say it was 2003 is when it was published. But there's a segment in there talking about like their outlook on the future of guitars. And in the segment, they're talking about maybe one day you could plug in an Ethernet cable into a guitar and be able to run that through your computer and be able to just have everything between a guitar and a computer and record and mix and master. And I'm just like, they had no idea.
Dude, literally 10 years later, boom, here we go. I can just plug it straight into an audio interface and then
Yeah.
just hit record.
It was a dream over 20 years ago, and now it's just like the standard to do. So who knows what's going to happen another 20 years from now?
Well, dude, it's been an honor and also the catch up talk. Now, are you interested if people like I know you're doing your own thing and you have your own job on the side, but if people want to reach out to you and they want to ask you like, hey, would you be interested in putting some lead parts in here or whatnot? Are you open to people contacting you about having some writing sessions done?
Yeah, I'm always open. I try my best too to, if you hit me up, to kind of get a reply out there as fast as I can. But yeah, I'm always open for that.
Because that's the
Obviously,
new thing.
scheduling
That's
can
uh
dictate,
having
but
the session writers now, i.e. Cody from Wage War, he's writing like every riff possible for everyone. So it's like the new
yeah,
kind of like pivot for the modern guitarist,
yeah,
writing stuff for other people.
yeah. No, I'm always down. Whatever, hit me up. Want to collab, whatever, or you just want to say what's up? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like, I'm
everyone,
not
please
gonna
definitely,
hurt my
if you
nose or
are,
anything.
you can check him out. You can hear everything that he's done and whatnot. I'll have all his social links and whatnot, so you can hit him up if you want to use him for any kind of project, whether it be playing live or, give him $10,000 to go travel to Germany and play a festival. He'll totally do it.
I get on that plane. I'll go. I'll go tomorrow.
But dude, once you're ready with the single, I'm gonna bump it, put it up there, showing the love. So let me know when that's gonna
I
be ready, and
appreciate that.
then
Yeah.
so
I'm always,
hopefully in that February, March, or we'll see if
yeah.
whenever Ben is ready. We're waiting on you, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get it out as soon as possible. So, and then, yeah, I'll definitely hit you up and then kind of take it from there.
Hell yeah, brother. Stoked. I know it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be killer. Hope you and your family are doing well and fucking continue to rock out, brother.
Oh, and thank you so much. I was excited, man. Thank you for having me on here. This is the first one for the year, I think, right?
Yeah. You're the first for 25,
Yeah.
brother.
So, I'm honored.
Or in
Oh,
the words of Hulk Hogan, hell yeah, brother.
oh yeah, brother. Yeah, but thanks, man. And it's good to see you. Yeah, sorry we
Well,
didn't run into each other, man. It's weird, but
I
it's just one
know.
of those weird things.
It will happen again. I'm out in Nashville all the time, which I will hit you up whenever I'm out there because
Yeah,
you're not too far from Nashville City, right?
yeah. I'm only 2 hours.
Yeah. So whatever when I come out to Nashville once a year, so I'll give you the heads up when I'm out there.
Yeah, yeah. We got their info now. We're just a little late on it,
Well,
but no,
please
I
everyone give him a
appreciate it, brother.
follow, all that good stuff, and always remember, keep the horns up.